2 years ago, Kevin Durant infamously decided to take his talents to the Bay and play for the Golden State Warriors, a team that just came off a historic regular season as they finished off with a record of 73-9, had a two-time MVP in Steph Curry on the roster, Defensive Player of the Year candidate and eventually winner in Draymond Green, and one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, along with one of the better two-way players in the NBA in Klay Thompson. Adding Kevin Durant on that roster not only meant that Kevin Durant was obviously going to win a championship, but a lot of people anticipated, including myself, that it would destroy all the parity in the NBA and eventually hurt the league as we know it. And even though there were a lot of people who were trying to be extremely optimistic about the league and the potential of certain teams such as the Houston Rockets, the Boston Celtics, and even the Los Angeles Lakers, here we are now 2 years later, and it seems like it's getting worse as the organization that has dominated the league over the last 2 years just signed DeMarcus Cousins to a mid-level exception. So in today's video, we're going to look at the evidence, go through some research, and try to figure out who killed the parity in the NBA.
Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar.
Now, when it comes to my first suspect, I have Mr. Durant. And honestly, I thought this was going to be an open and closed shut case because his fingerprints were all over the crime scene. I mean, Exhibit A, we have him going to the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant, one of the better players in the NBA, many people would argue the second best player in the league, joining a roster that featured Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and a team that just got done concluding a historic regular season. Obviously, joining that team would tip the scale in heavily favor of the Golden State Warriors and would give you the best chance of winning a championship. Now, for those out there who want to say that Kevin Durant didn't necessarily know the ramifications behind his move, I give you Exhibit B, a tweet from Kevin Durant several years prior to him making this decision, making comments about the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers and how multiple players wanted to play for only two organizations teaming up and thus eliminating a lot of competition in the NBA. So Kevin Durant already understood what potentially could happen when you have multiple great players joining the exact same roster or two. Now, if that doesn't tickle your fancy, I still have Exhibit C, Kevin Durant making fake Twitter accounts. Now, when Kevin Durant was caught up in the scandal of making fake Twitter accounts, not only was he going around replying to other fans, but he was also in his reply trying to justify his move by making claims that him playing in OKC just wasn't good enough. And again, when you get to a point when you're making fake Twitter accounts to try to justify your move, you know for a fact that the guilt is eating you alive. Kevin Durant, if you just felt like you needed some form of justification, why not just say it yourself? Why not just go on the multiple platforms that you've utilized over the last several years and voice your opinion? Which thus points us to Kevin Durant being the murderer who killed the parity in the NBA. But for some people, that's not good enough because many people believe that Kevin Durant, he had an accomplice. Kevin Durant isn't smart enough to do this on his own, and on top of that, Kevin Durant is only one man. The NBA was already headed into this situation, and many people will point out the fact that LeBron played just a heavy role in destroying the parity in the NBA. And personally, I wouldn't necessarily believe this until Draymond himself said this.
They want to talk about super teams this, super team that. I never played on a super team. You started the super team, bro.
I don't believe I've played for a super team.
Now, when it comes to Mr. James, this is definitely a suspect that I overlooked. However, after looking at the evidence and doing a little bit more digging, I have to say, he has a lot of dirt on his hands. First and foremost, as I just showed you, Exhibit A, Draymond Green referring to LeBron building a super team in Miami. But not only that, Kevin Durant himself referred to LeBron forming super teams in Miami and in Cleveland when he made the transition to go to Golden State as well. Now, why exactly is this so important, you may say? It's because it shows the level of influence that LeBron has amongst the rest of the players in the NBA. Now, let me be extremely clear here. I thoroughly understand the difference between what LeBron did and what Kevin Durant did. And I also understand that there were super teams before LeBron went to Miami. But with that being said, let's also be clear with something as well. Many people try to make it seem as if like LeBron just went to a 40-some win team when he went to Miami, when the reality is that's not completely true. LeBron knew for a fact that not only was it going to be D-Wade in Miami, but it also was going to be Chris Bosh as well. And as far back as I could dig up, there was never a team that was built and concocted from the players while in their prime to join up and build a super team to raise their chances of winning a championship. And because of that, and those key components, is the similarities that we see with Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors. Now, when I actually got all this stuff together, I thought to myself, that's just not enough evidence. There has to be something more that LeBron did to push Kevin Durant or give Kevin Durant the opportunity to join the Golden State Warriors. And after I did a little bit more digging, I actually found some more evidence on LeBron, and this is so damning that LeBron definitely has to be a main suspect, if not the biggest perpetrator of killing the parity in the NBA. And the evidence that I have is LeBron being the vice president of the Players Union. Now, why exactly is it so important, you may ask? Not too long ago, LeBron joined forces with Chris Paul in being the VP and the president of the Players Union. And just a handful of years ago, they decided to appoint Michelle Roberts as a representative of the National Basketball Players Association. Now, the reason why this is so important is because in 2014, that's when the NBA signed its new TV deal, basically prompting $24 billion to be introduced into the NBA's revenue. Now, why this is so important is because once there was that much money introduced into the NBA, obviously some of that money was going to have to be allocated to the salary caps. And this is where it becomes very pivotal, because both Chris Paul and LeBron, and many people will make an argument that it was very selfish of them, but I mean, to their credit, it was pretty smart. Both of them push vigorously to make sure all of the money that could possibly be allocated to the salary caps be allocated all at once, despite the fact that executives and Adam Silver attempted multiple times to allow there to be a smooth, steady increase in the salary cap over an extended period of time, instead of there being a massive spike. However, like I said before, Chris Paul, LeBron, Michelle Roberts, they consistently rejected this idea, and they got exactly what they wanted, which is why in the summer of 2016, we saw a massive $20+ million spike in the salary cap, something that both LeBron and Chris Paul have benefited from significantly, along with a lot of other players in the NBA. But because of this, it also gave the opportunity to both Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors to build a super team that has dominated the league over the past several years. And with that being said, LeBron is the accomplice to Kevin Durant in killing the parity in the NBA. I rest my case. But they're players, and they shouldn't have the responsibility of keeping the parity in the NBA. And even though I'm making fun of people who make that argument, I must admit there is a lot of truth in that statement, which means that there has to be someone else who is a suspect in this murder. And that man is...
From a league standpoint, you always want to see great competition.
Oh, Adam Silver. Oh, Adam Silver. You almost got away with it, man. I almost overlooked you. I mean, I did my due diligence. I looked at all of the evidence. I tried to gather all of the numbers, and boy, you almost got away with it. I must say, Adam Silver, you are a sly puss. But Adam Silver, you definitely had a couple of loose ends that you didn't tie together, which is why you are definitely the main suspect in this murder. Because when it comes to Adam Silver, like many people will argue, both LeBron and Kevin Durant, they're players. It's not their responsibility to uphold parity in the NBA. However, it is Adam Silver's responsibility. And going back to my last piece of evidence of showing you how the 2016 spike in the salary cap altered the league, that is something that Adam Silver should have prevented, as he is, again, the commissioner of the league. So why exactly didn't it happen? And after reading multiple articles and watching multiple interviews, the only thing that I could come up with, and Adam Silver has said this himself,
Just as importantly, the competitive issues. And I think creating a system that allows every team, I'd say, equality of an equal opportunity to compete.
What?
Now, I know I've stuck to this whole crime-solving theme throughout the entire video, But I have to end the video on this note. Adam Silver, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I thoroughly understand the idea behind giving every team an equal opportunity to build their franchise by allocating the ridiculous $20+ million spike that we saw in the offseason of 2016. But what you fail to recognize is that you're giving advantages to teams that should not be privileged to those advantages, since they've already spent their money hitting the salary cap. So what you unfortunately do is basically give them a tax-free bill and bump them below the salary cap now, since again there's a spike, while also giving teams who already have more than enough talent on their roster the opportunity to add even more talent. And again, I understand equal opportunity, but let's just call a spade a spade. Kevin Durant was not attempting to go to one of the lower tier teams in the NBA because he wanted to win a championship. And the only thing that would have prevented him from going to a team such as the Golden State Warriors or the Cavaliers or really any other contending team at that time is the salary cap. But again, when you add that much money all at once and you allow the Players Association to have their way with their financial means, then you end up hurting the NBA in the long haul. But when it comes to Adam Silver, as the commissioner, and I don't necessarily know if it was a lack of urgency, the level of importance wasn't placed when it comes to renegotiating a TV deal amongst the players union, or you just didn't want to opt out of the contract. Quite frankly, I'm not completely sure on what it is, because the excuse that you gave just doesn't come across as valid. But Adam Silver should definitely receive the lion's share of the blame when it comes to the construction of the Golden State Warriors team that has been destroying and dominating the NBA over the last 3 and probably for multiple years to come.
LeBron James.